Hi, welcome back to the Social Shade with my mom.
Hi, it's Helen Taylor again, and I'm here with my son Chase Taylor of the Social Chase. Thank you so much for watching our first episode. As you know, we did discuss about what is autism, and we're going to continue on that presentation before we bring our guest on for the second episode, which is Helen Saunders.
Characteristics of children with autism spectrum disorders: social difficulties, communication difficulties, restricted repertoire, additional considerations, sensory processing difficulties, theory of mind, executive functioning, and wandering.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So social difficulties is what Michael and Chase both shared with you earlier, that's some of the challenges that they have. Communication difficulties for some. So Chase is quiet. Michael's a little bit quiet, but he does have great conversations where Chase will have like very minimal conversation. And there's some individuals who are nonverbal. And so a nonverbal is that they might be able to say a one word or two words, but they really can't communicate through words. And sometimes for individuals who are on a spectrum who are severe autism who are nonverbal, that is challenging for them because they cannot tell what's going on in their head, and so they might have certain behaviors to try to communicate it that everyone may not understand what those behaviors are. Now, the wandering is also very important, and I'll touch on that very high level right now. But individuals on a spectrum tend to wander, and they like to wander towards water, and they like to wander towards a train, and they like elevators. So they'll wander into danger. They'll run right into the street, right?
Um,
I thought you were going to say something.
oh, I'm gonna be honest with you on this. I don't think I've heard about that one. I've heard of like the sort of fascination, and this is probably just a common stereotype with like trains, usually technology. I don't know. Usually trains or something like that. I mean, when I wander, and this is just from a personal experience.
Yep.
When I wander around, it's mostly because I just like walking around, really. Not towards danger. I mean, probably when I was younger, maybe. I don't really remember all of that.
But you might have been taught how to be safe with your wandering.
Good point. And the closest thing I had, which was sort of not near dangerous, but sort of that sort of moment of wandering or like that, was when I was in college and I ended up taking the lift all the way out to a 7-Eleven, which was, I think, nearly 2 hours away just to get some cookies.
2 hours away?
I just did it for the ride, man.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all I literally did it for. So I guess that could probably be
that could be a sense of wandering.
moment. Like, I literally just did it because I wanted a ride.
But you did it safely.
Well, yeah, I used to lift.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone doesn't do that safely. And so
Yeah,
the water is what's happening with individuals on the spectrum, especially children. They tend to wander. And so when people wander, like 90% of the children, of the wandering is to water, and it ends in deaths.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of studies about that. I'll have more details on another show about that. Say sensory processing first.
Sensory processing. Sensitivity to sound, light, and touch. Signs covering the earth, rocking back and forth. Spinning. Difficulty with body awareness and balance. Easily overstimulated. Understimulated. May not feel an injury. Lights and sirens might distract, overwhelm, or frighten.
So the sensory processing, a lot of individuals on the spectrum
Go on.
have a lot of sensory processing. And so the sound, so I train police officers on safety and awareness. And so there could be sound of the sirens will have a sensory processing challenge for an individual on the spectrum, the lights, and it really hurts them. And so if you see an individual covering their ears and rocking back and forth, don't stop that because they're trying to comfort themselves. They can be easily understimulated, and they may not feel that they're injured. I remember when Chase was little, he had a cut. He didn't know he had a cut because at that time he was understimulated. He didn't even tell us about it because he wasn't being very vocal at that time. So also with the lights and sirens, when we're talking about it may distract, overwhelm, or frighten them, they could run right into the street into danger. So those are some of the things that we're really worried about in terms of the sensory processing, just as a quick overview.
Repetitive behaviors that provide sensory stimulation, repetitive noise making, hand flapping, rocking, pacing, finger flicking, tapping, spinning, or jumping up and down.
So that's what we call the stemming, and that's what it's a source of communication and source of giving comfort to individuals on the spectrum. So we said that before: the rocking, the hand flapping, repetitive noise making. They make a lot of noise. It just makes have a comfort for them. And everyone does their sensory processing in a different way. This is very high level.
As a result of these sensory difficulties, individuals may experience sensory overloads or meltdowns.
Obviously, there are also strengths with individuals who are on this autism spectrum. A lot of them have strong visual skills, good memory of details, what Michael was talking about earlier, great ability to focus, special interest. So Chase's special interest is drawing his critters, above average intelligence, a great ability to stick to the rules. They're very honest, and they have a great problem solving ability. And there's many more that they have, but those are some of the high level strengths. So parenting children with autism spectrum disorders requires flexibility, creativity, and a willingness to change. And it's great to have a support system as well. And there's so much information out there on the internet. And Autism Speaks has a toll-free number you could call. We have some of our local programs as well, which I'll show to you at the end of this program. What can you do? We shared some of the signs of autism. The first thing you could do is get a diagnosis from a neurologist or licensed professional. Learning what your rights are about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is the IDEA. If your child is under 16 years old and their IQ is 69 or below, you need to contact the Department of Development Services. If not, if their IQ is higher, you need to contact the Department of Social Services. So once your child's in school, you can have a meeting with your school administration to start PPT meetings.
Least restrictive environment. IDEA also provides that children with disabilities are entitled to experience the least restrictive environment in schools. This means that a school district is required to educate a student with a disability in regular classrooms with his or her non-disabled peers.
IDEA. Every child has the right to a free, appropriate education. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, enacted in 1975.
The law mandates that the state provide an eligible child with a free, appropriate public education that meets his or her unique individual needs. The IDEA was most recently revised in 2004 and in fact renamed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, but most people still refer to it as IDEA.
As described previously, IDEA provides for a free and appropriate public education for all children with disabilities. Each word in this phrase is important, but appropriate is the one that relates specifically to your special needs child.
So when you're saying that if you go into a meeting, you say, oh, I want the best for my child, you have to be very careful with those words because that's a very ambiguous statement to make. So you want to say appropriate education. Those are key words to use because your child has a right to a free and appropriate public education.
Individualized Education Program. An Individualized Education Program, IEP, is a document that spells out the student's needs and how they will be met. This is a legal document. This is your power for your child. How was that?
That's good. So again, let me repeat what Michael said. This is a legal document. This is the power for your child. What's written in that IEP is very important. You must read it. And if you make comments during your meeting, make sure it's written into the document. these are out of order. Okay, so planning and placement team, which is a PPT meeting. So the purpose of the PPT meeting is to review the referral to special education. So during your PPT meeting, you're going to look at evaluations and information and determine out what's the most appropriate education and what your child is eligible for in the special education classroom, or if they're going to be included in an inclusive classroom. So the PPT meeting is very key. You're going to review your IEP in that classroom. You're going to make determinations to find out what the goals and objectives are for your child. So the PPT meetings are once a year, but you can have a PPT meeting at any time you want. You could call a PPT meeting. So for the PPT meeting, a parent must receive written notification 5 days prior to the meeting. It has to be a meeting that is mutually agreed upon on time and place. They can't say, Ms. Taylor, we're going to have a meeting on Monday at 12 o'clock. Well, no, I work full time. That may not work out. I need more time. So you can have a conversation, and it has to be mutually agreed upon. Same way, you can't say, well, I want a meeting at 5 o'clock when most of the teachers are out of school. So it has to be mutually agreed upon.
If the meeting is scheduled at the time that is not convenient, the parent can request the district to schedule or participate through an alternative method such as conference call. Parent can bring anyone they choose to the meeting.
Good job. So there's a lot of resources, and I have to thank Autism Speaks. A lot of this information I did receive from Autism Speaks. There's a toll-free number. You could call them with any type of questions, which is on the screen, 888-AUTISM-2 or 888-288-4762. They also have a phone number in Espanol. You can speak it in Spanish in there. Their website, which has a lot of resource information, is www.autismspeaks.org. They also have family services you can contact at autismspeaks.org and outreach at autismspeaks.org. A lot of information there for you. There's quite a few local organizations. I'm just naming some of them here. We have Connected Families for Effective Autism Treatment, ctfeet.org. You go on their website. They have a parent-to-parent discussion group. It's a private email group that you could go out and put a question out to a parent, and we all help each other out. It's very informative. The Focus Center for Autism has a great autism programs, as well as they offer also housing as well, and they have a school in the Canton area. Autism Services and Resources Connecticut, they have a lot of training that goes out. Definitely go on their website. They also have their own walk. And then you have the Sun, Moons, and Stars, which is in Watertown. It's mostly for younger children. And the Waterbury Arc, they help individuals with disabilities. And Autism Families Connecticut, they're in the Newington area. They have a lot of social activities as well.
Welcome to the Social Chase. I'm Chase Taylor, and this is my host, Allie. And together we're going to interview Helen Saunders and her son, Kolyn. So, Ms. Saunders, tell a little about yourself.
Thank you, Chase, for having me, and Allie. My name is Helen. I'm a proud parent of a 22-year-old graduate from Crosby High School. And this is my son, Kolyn, and we are glad to be here today. Thank you for having us.
Hi, Kolyn. Hi, Helen. So, Helen, when did you first realize your son had autism?
When I brought Kolyn home from the first day from the hospital, I noticed that he was different. He wasn't like any other babies, and I have two older children, and he wasn't like any of my other babies. He was more content, and he didn't really need me for much of anything as an infant. And I brought these concerns to my provider, and they were kind of dismissed as just growing. All children develop differently, and I was not convinced. I had 2 other children, so I knew that my child was different.
So, in your own intake on this, what's the difference between parenting an autistic child and parenting a non-autistic child?
The difference between parenting a non-autistic child and an autistic child is that it depends on where they are on the spectrum, the scale, because you have to tweak your rearing to what they can understand. My son is right there at the cusp. He is verbal, but he's not so verbal. And I raised him in a home just like the other children. I did not treat him special. He had the same expectations. He will do chores. He will be disciplined. He goes to church. We pray. He does all the same things. I treated him just like every other child because I didn't want the world to treat him different.
I understand that.
Okay, so what was it like transitioning into high school?
Into high school? Yep.
Yeah.
High school and beyond. Transitioning to high school was a little challenging for Kolyn because with the school systems, 1 year from the next, the teachers are not the same. The paraprofessionals are not the same. But Kolyn did make it through 21 years. He graduated at the age of 21 from Crosby. Transitioning to after school to workforce, because all children are not geared for college. Kolyn will not set well in a type of academic setting, such as a college curriculum. So he's geared more towards the workforce. And as a parent, if you do not know the system, your child kind of sits out for a while and they sit behind. And this affects the whole dynamics of the household, because we go from having someone who goes to school on a regular basis to graduation day come June and no place to go. And it just takes a while. It took a while for us to transition out of high school, but now we are there, but it's still a struggle.
Yeah, I can understand that. I graduated this year, and it was a big transition to college, so I can understand that.
Good job, Allie.
I mean, what's family life like?
Family life, the dynamics of family life. It's one thing I did notice through the years. It's a little hard on the other children. And it's harder on the other children because you don't want to focus on just your special needs child, because you can't forget the others. And that's one thing as a parent, is I had to learn to spread myself with all the children and treat them all equally, because they're all important. They're all, that's your family. And you want to include them because you want them to help also. And then you want them to build a bond. And in order to build a bond with your children, you have to treat them all the same.
Cool.
And how has it affected my family life? My children are all adults now. And so with this being said, I always hoped and wished that my children would grow up, get married, move away, and have grandchildren. But now I had to change my mindset, because my son will probably be with me for quite a while now. And it has changed some plans. I wanted to go out of the country and do things with my husband, but now we're focused more on things that we can do with our son, but also allowing him to be an adult, because he is an adult.
That's pretty nice. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, Chase.
As humans, we all go through transition. It just makes me think about my transition after graduating from high school and going to Bristol Tech for culinary. So in high school, I was at a high school called Intensive Education Academy. It's a school-based school that is like for kids on the spectrum and other disabilities. So the teachers and everyone is trained to teach a person that has extra troubles in their lives, and all the kids are the same. They understand each other. Yes, there's still drama and all that, but we all work together, and it was a place where I can feel secure to go to every day. So transitioning to a school that is not just focused on autism, it's a public school, tech school in Bristol. So it was hard. I thought that I was going to be bullied. I thought that, because before I went to intensive education academy, I was extremely bullied by typical kids because they don't understand the lives that we have and how different it is. So what I did for my transition is, school nurses, you think of them as they're just a nurse, they're going to help you feel better. But honestly, the school nurse at my new school has really contributed to me settling in. It's not just for feeling better, it's for helping you, and they were part of my team. We also have my school psychologist. She's there. I'm allowed to walk down to her room. I don't even have to knock if I'm upset. I can just walk in. If she's on the phone, I'm quiet. If she's not, then we talk. And then my chefs are so on board with me. They're great. They're patient. If I need a break, they're like, go ahead, see you soon. So, and everyone has grown up. All the teenagers are all mature now. So, yes, there's still drama, and yes, there's still people who haven't grown up, but most of the majority of people did. So they helped me a lot. So Chase, how about your transition?
Well, I remember there being a room with all my parents and comrades and my teachers, and we were just talking about if I'm ready for college or not. And I think I am, because I feel smart and independent around school.
That's great. So Helen, how was your transition for Kolyn?
Kolyn's transition consisted of a meeting with the school psychologist, social worker, principals, teachers, and we were trying to decide what to do after high school. And I wanted Kolyn to actually remain where he was actually working. He worked for CW, he worked at Meals on Wheels, and yes, I wanted him to experience different things, but with transition, sometimes it's really hard because it's not school, it's not a school bus, no book bag, no teachers, and those are some things we had to get over the hurdle. And even after he graduated, started working at CW, there's still more transition because I have to go through meetings to see, does it work for him? How well is he doing? Is he actually working? And for the most part, this young man is doing an awesome job transitioning from high school to the workforce. And one thing I also realized that as parents, sometimes I put more expectations on him than he can handle. And I wanted him to go to a workforce where he would have different opportunities to try different types of job industries. But I looked at him and I said, he's happy where he is. Why take him out of that? So with that, I've learned they've helped me with the transition to kind of realize as a parent, let this young man do what this young man wants to do.
Well, Kolyn, are you having fun? Do you have fun in the workplace?
Do you have fun at CW?
CW.
Yes, do you have fun?
Yes.
Yes.
That's good.
Kolyn's a man of few words. He loves music. He is content, because if he was not content sitting here right now, you would be aware of that.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen, for sharing your story. The Social Chase is all about spreading awareness and letting people know what's really in the lives of autistic people. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. For giving me a voice, giving my Kolyn a voice.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
So people have asked me, what is the Social Chase and why did I start it? The reason I started the Social Chase because we had a great program here at Skye Cable that was put on by Brenda for teenagers. It was a teenager free boot camp during the summer. And I was wondering how are these teenagers going to continue on their skill set. So I have been also thinking about how other ways that we can promote social acceptance for people with special needs and on the spectrum. So it was a great opportunity for me to start this program to have the teenagers engage and continue on with their skills for video and audio broadcasting, as well as us sending out a message about autism acceptance and awareness, as well as special needs. So that's why we started the Social Chase program on the cable channel. Thank you for watching.